how old were you when you did this boomerang deal? What percentage of buyers walking through the door you think are Chinese right now? Tell me one recent sale you guys did that every runner was a Chinese. So Ben Torben, you're finally here for our interview. Welcome.
Thanks, Sean.
You must be probably one of the best associates right now in the game in the eastern suburbs, doing a lot of big numbers. Tell us a bit about you, how you grew up.
So my name's Ben Torben. I went to Emmanuel, which is a school in Randwick. Always fascinated in real estate, always something that I wanted to do. From a young age, I've been in the industry, kind of learning the ins and outs, and up until now, really just working every day to perfect my craft.
So you grew up in the east, or?
Yeah, so actually when I was younger, I grew up in the south. In a suburb called Monterey, which is about 10-15 minutes south of the airport. I then moved to Maroubra, which is where I still am, and I've been there for the last 10 years.
Awesome. So how long have you been with Bill? Is this the only agent you've been with?
Yeah, so been with Paul my entire career. This is my 8th year in the industry.
8th year in the industry.
Yeah.
So like I said, you're a very successful associate at the moment. I heard this year you guys done unbelievable. Almost 6 months into the game. What have you written this year?
So the last 5.5 months, I've done 1.4 million in GCI.
Wow. What did you do last year?
Last year did 1.3, the year before that 2 million.
So wow, that's like more than like 89% of the individual agents I know. That's amazing. Tell us a bit about that big deal last year, like 80 million. Like at your age, no one even probably done something 40, 50 million. You did an $80 million deal, which 99% of the agents won't do in their lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, how that one came about was that we were selling a property in Point Piper at the time. I met a buyer, although that property that I showed him wasn't fit for him. He started explaining what he was looking for. And one day we were late in the office, Paul and I, we're discussing how we can service this buyer, and we thought, you know what, this property may suit. And it actually happened that property had been on the market or off the market kind of quietly for the last 5 years with multiple different agents. And so we approached the vendors, we got in a discussion. They literally said, you have one shot to get this done, and we ended up getting exactly what they wanted. It's a really strong result.
So how did you think someone with that wealth trusted along a young agent like you?
Absolutely. Look, I think at the start of my part in the industry, people did question my age. But once you are able to show that your market knowledge is just as good as everyone else in the game, and that you're hungrier and kind of more able to help them in any way that an agent can, they really do put the trust out in you. And I think that's what people see in me, that I go over and beyond with every single thing I can do for a client. And that goes for buyers too.
You've been in the industry, this is the 8th year. So how old were you when you did this boomerang deal?
Boomerang happened when I was 19 years old.
You're kidding with me.
I swear.
Wow, I don't think that's going to be broken.
It's definitely not.
That's harder than the Usain Bolt, I think. That's amazing. Well done. So talking about young agents, how do you see this young agent and an old agent? Because I see more established agents, because I see a lot of the agents in these local agents, and they're always like, you have to be a junior for 4 or 5 years, you have to be this and that for years, and then you can start being an individual, this and that. How do you see all of that?
I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I think ultimately real estate isn't a game where you've got to be the most kind of intelligent. You're not a doctor. You don't have to know how to perform a surgery, but you do have to have the hunger. You do have to work harder than any single other agent. And if you're able to perfect your craft, really understand the ins and outs of the market and what everything's worth and trades for and who owns anything, that's how you kind of get to a stage where you're able to then do these high quality deals.
Tell me the key facts for a young agent to succeed in this industry.
Absolutely. I've always said it from day one, market knowledge is key. If you know your market, if you know the people in your market, it's the best thing that you can do for yourself. It's funny, you can ask me about any property, whether it's the sale price, the guide price, the land size, anything, any attribute that a property has, as well as who owns it and, where that owner's moving to. I know everything. And it's not from me being anything special, but it's just how hard I work to, perfect my market knowledge.
I saw you guys had an ad on Instagram story saying that how much did you guys do in a week or something?
So in the last week and a half, we've transacted $85 million.
85. And some of those stock that's been on the market for a long time.
The market is funny. We've kind of been in a period for a year, I'd say, where the market's been up and down and it's been hard to sell some things and easy to sell others. I feel that now, kind of before agents get on that holiday break, or at least buyers get on that holiday break of going into July and going on holidays, I feel that there's a bit of boost in the market. There's definitely more activity. You know, in the last month alone, we've set 3 street records, and that's played a big part into the sales that we've done.
Tell us a bit about your most recent deal on Greycliff. I mean, obviously everyone knows there's a Triglaw family who bought it. How many buyers was on that, and what do you think of it, the whole deal?
Our vendors are ecstatic. You know, that they were hoping for 17.5 to 18. When Paul and I first walked into that property, we really thought it was something special. 2 weeks into the campaign, we had about 5 or 6 buyers running on it. It was great. Towards the last week before auction, we had about 2 to 3 left. And so it got quite stressful. At the end of the day, we managed the process literally to a T. We had the 2 strongest buyers in a room, you know, got them to compete. And that's where we saw the record happen. I think it landed about, you know, $3 million.
You know, there's a lot of agents that came out and opened their own agencies. Not many survive. Like, how does, like, Billa's probably one of the only 1 or 2 names still out there that came out of a big franchise and still doing well. What's the secret?
Look, I think it comes down to 2 things: having the right team around you and your experience. You know, there's a lot of young agents that kind of get a bit of a taste of a strong run and they go, okay, I'm going to open up my agency because you know, I get more out of it. I think that's the wrong approach. Personally, Paul's been in the game for about 28 years now, and the agency's only been opened up for 10. So he had 18 years of hard work before he got to that stage. And now we've got a really strong team where we're able to kind of work collaboratively, put our heads together and get results for our clients. Absolutely. So look, for me, I'm kind of more traditional. I love the beach lifestyle. So I definitely put kind of North Bondi and Bondi Beach up there as one. Being close to the beach, I think it's a major benefit for any property owner. The other one I'd probably say is Wallara. I think in Bellevue Hill, as everybody knows, it's kind of very strong there, and the property prices have definitely risen a lot in the last couple of years. And so I think people will tend to move to Wallara, where you still got that close access to schools.
I mean, 20 years ago, maybe Wallara was even a bit more premium than Bellevue Hill, right?
Yeah.
What's happened?
People just love Bellevue Hill. Look, it's because you've got the private schools here. For the children, it's literally a walk away. So it's so easy to get to school. You know, the parents don't have to worry about driving them. And I think in Wallara, you get that kind of same feeling. You might not be as close of a walk to school, but you're still in close driving distance, and you still get some grand homes in Wallara that offer a lot.
Mate, you're still very young. Just told me you haven't even turned 22 yet. Yeah. Last 3 years, how much in property sales have you done, total value ballpark?
I've done about $360 million.
$360 million, and you're 21.
21.
That's nuts. When are you going to go on yourself?
Look, I've got no rush. As you said it, I'm 21 years old. At the moment, I'm enjoying my work. I enjoy working with Paul. He's a great mentor, great leader. When the time is right, obviously I do plan to make a move on my own, and that's a goal that I look to achieve in the near future. But for now, just enjoying what I do. There's no rush for me. It's all about servicing my clients in the best way. I'd probably say about 40%.
Wow, so it's picked up again.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of Chinese buyers out. A big trend that I do see is that a lot of Chinese buyers are moving from the north and making their way to the east. I think the difference between the Chinese and the local buyers that we deal with is that many of these people coming from the north to the east know the suburbs, but don't know the specific areas in the suburbs.
That's the thing. Like in the east, every street, every part of the street's different.
Every street.
Yeah. Does that make it a disadvantage for some of the Chinese?
I don't think it's a disadvantage, but I definitely think that knowing the area helps with buying a property. And I think with Chinese buyers, we're definitely having those conversations explaining why certain areas are better than others, why one side of the street's better than the other.
Yeah. So for example, Greycliff.
Yeah.
Was any Chinese running on it?
There was.
So,
but neither of the bidders at the end of the day were Chinese. They're both local. You know, that's in my eyes one of the best spots in Vaucluse.
And tell me one recent sale you guys did that every runner was a Chinese.
95 Hardy Street. So
tell me why.
Guided 7.8. We ended up selling that for over $1 million above the guide, which is a really strong result. On the day, we had 4 bidders at the auction. All were Chinese.
Mate, tell me why all Chinese buys on Hardy. From your thoughts.
I think it had the Harbour Bridge views,
Yeah.
which the Chinese really like, and it needed the work done to it. And I think a lot of Chinese buyers that we're seeing come into our open homes actually want to do work. They kind of want to put their own touch on properties and give it their own kind of style. And so I think that's why that one was highly desired.
All right, tell me your honest opinion. Don't be commercial on this. A lot of Chinese are buying traditionally not as good streets because it has the bridge view and the harbour views or whatever. How do you see this?
I think each buyer is to their own, and some people only want a view. For me, I'm all about the location. Location. I think it's great. You know, a street like Greycliff Avenue, although you're not getting the views, you're literally opposite the beach. And so for me, that's key. I don't think you get better. Although if you want views, you're probably looking at Vaucluse Road, Gilliver, Wentworth.
You've answered the question perfect. That's all I needed.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. You know, it's Greycliff as a location, Coolong Road, Wentworth Road. I think these streets are amazing in Vaucluse.
Every location, every premium street, every prestige street exists for a reason, and it's been there for hundreds of years. There's a reason that street's a tier 1 street.
Absolutely, and it's for every individual buyer. Some people won't like Greycliff, other people will hate Gilliver.
Yeah.
And so it just comes down to the buyers and what they're looking for.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Sean.